Millions of religious people around the world are preparing to celebrate major feasts and festivals while in lockdown at home. Next week, Christians mark Holy Week and Easter, while Jewish people celebrate the Passover. And later in the month, Ramadan begins for Muslims. It's meant upheaval and disappointment, but it's also prompted communities to use technology and innovate. Alex Perrottet reports.
For only the second time, the Jewish community in New Zealand has closed its synagogues. The first was in fear after the mosque attacks last year. Rabbi Nathaniel Friedler says the commandment to gather has now turned on its head.
The most important value, the most important commandment anyone can adhere to is saving lives. So if something else needs to be pushed because of that, that's unfortunate, but very, very important to understand that preserving lives, is the most important commandment in Judaism.
Instead, he's taking prayers online. He says the biggest issue is next week's 8-day Passover festival, where Jews eat unleavened bread and other foods usually bought from just the 2 kosher stores in the country. So there's a rush with online bookings and a special procedure in place.
The matzah, the unleavened bread, and the special wine that we have for Passover, and all these goods you can't find anywhere else in the supermarket. So people will book a time, so a person at a time, 10 minutes in a shop, so no other people around, and quickly go out, bring his shop back, the next customer coming in.
The Auckland store is doing most of the deliveries, and they're thankful that the produce can be delivered by courier.
Kei te ngatamātua o te tamaiti o te wairua tapu.
Amen.
Welcome to the Chapel of Holy Cross Seminary on this, the 5th Sunday of Lent. We gather at a time when we as a nation and as a world are most in need of God's grace and strength.
Catholic Auxiliary Bishop Michael Geelan was ordained just under a month ago in South Auckland, but instead of tending his new flock, he's confined to home and keeping busy saying a live-streamed Mass.
We've had up to 25,000 people click into a daily Mass. People have found this really helpful. The daily Mass has been recorded from churches from around the diocese and even from some priests' bedrooms where they've been celebrating Mass if they're on lockdown.
Some Christian leaders say they're concerned that if the lockdown lasts too long, people will get out of the habit of going to church. But Bishop Michael says he thinks it could be the other way around.
I wouldn't be surprised as when we finally pass through this, more people will gather.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.
The Muslim call to prayer was famously broadcast all over the country just over a year ago, following the March 15 mosque terror attacks. Now it won't even happen in mosques. Even Saudi Arabia has told the 2.5 million Muslims from around the world who prepare to make the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina in July to put their plans on hold. Ikhlaq Kashkari is the president of the New Zealand Muslim Association, and his community too cancelled mosque prayers well before the lockdown started.
That was really obviously for the benefit of the community because of how our prayers are conducted on the carpet and when you kneel on the ground, and the risk was higher from transmission perspective.
He says Ramadan prayers will start while in lockdown, and if it continues through May, the major festival of Eid al-Fitr will also be held at home. He says people are tuning in online and not just for prayers and sermons.
We are working at the moment in finalising process for burial, and because of constraints, what we can and can't do, we are looking at live streaming of the funeral when that happens, and bless the family can watch it and friends can watch it.
Sister Johanna Kyle Penn is originally from Samoa and has been a Carmelite sister at Mount Albert in Auckland for 20 years. She's closed the gates and only opens for food deliveries. The priest who usually comes for daily Mass is staying away. 2 of the sisters are in their 80s and 2 in their 90s. She says she's been telling people to follow the government and medical advice.
Don't give up on scientists. They are there for a reason, to help us. And God has given them that knowledge to help humanity and to find solutions for illnesses.
She says next week's Easter feast will be historic, and they'll be tuning in online full of expectation to watch Pope Francis with an empty St. Peter's Square. For Checkpoint, Alex Perrottet.